5 points in the darkness make a different kind of show. They say we're better together, but what do they know when the stars align differently down here below? And maybe we'll rise when we cut all the ties. There's a flag that we fly under our own sky. Remember all the stories that your granddad told about a republic that wouldn't be controlled. Now the suits in the city say we've all been sold, but there's a fire burning that just won't get old. And maybe we'll rise when we cut all the ties. There's a flag that we fly under our own sky. They draw their lines on paper, we draw ours in the sand. Some dreams are getting closer, while some don't understand. Don't understand. The highways stretch forever toward a setting sun, where cattle graze on memories of battles won. They say unity's the answer, but maybe we're done with playing by the rules of the chosen ones. Oh, maybe we'll rise when we cut all the ties. There's a flag that we fly under our own sky. Maybe we'll rise when we cut all the ties. There's a flag that we fly under our own sky. Our own sky. Our own sky.
Well, Happy New Year, Texians. It feels like forever since we've been together here on Late Night Coffee Talk, and I got my coffee and I got a break, and so I'm ready to do this and ready to have our first Late Night Coffee Talk in 2026. Very glad that you could, I guess, join us. Yeah, be here tonight. Whatever wording suits you, but I think you get the sentiment. We're all together for the first time in 2026, and very glad we can make this happen tonight. I got a lot to talk about. I would like more of what you want to talk about. So you're going to need to start peppering me with those questions, so I'll be able to fill some space with something other than me, because I would prefer to have your questions than me just sit here and talk, right? And I'm sure you would prefer that as well. Anyway, look, happy New Year to all of you guys, even though it's like 8 days after the actual New Year's Day, but it is our first time together, so happy New Year. All right. That being said, let us get down to brass tacks. For those of you joining us for the first time, welcome. First off, right? Got to be polite. But number two, let me tell you what all's going on here. If you're joining us for the first time, I'm Daniel Miller, president of the Texas Nationalist movement, and this is Late Night Coffee Talk. This is that time once a week where I take a break from working on Texas independence. I come in here, pour another cup of coffee. Yet again, this is not like my only cup a day, right? This is one of many, but I pour yet another one. And I fire up the camera and I take your questions, talk about what's on my mind. And we talk about TEXIT, Texas, politics, culture, the state of the world. Sometimes you guys ask me personal questions, whatever it is. And, so this is a back and forth. I get to talk about what I want to talk about. You get to talk about what you want to talk about. It's really a good time will be had by most. Yes, I know the saying is a good time will be had by all, but I like to moderate expectations appropriately. So a good time will be had by most. That being said, here's how you can get your questions in. First and foremost, you will see a link, or you'll see an email address pop up down here in the ticker that says coffeetalk@vtnm.org. You can send your questions into that. Or if you're watching on YouTube, you can drop your questions in the chat there. If you're watching on X, same drill. Facebook, same drill. Rumble, same drill, right? But of course, the folks that are watching us on TNM Social right now, their questions kind of jump to the front of the line because we are, if you did not see that last couple of episodes of Late Night Coffee Talk in 2025, then you missed the fact that we are shifting a lot of our content, including our new live streaming capabilities, over to TNM Social. That has its own live chat and everything else. So, come join us over there where we don't get censored by big tech. It's fun. And all your hardcore TNM folks are there too. So it cuts down on the noise. But if you're watching us on the other platforms, that's super cool as well. Let me just kind of dovetail off of that to talk about the first thing that I need to talk about, which is wrapping up some 2025 business, right? So those of you that have been connected with us on Facebook for many, many years, I mean, we were early in Facebook. You may or may not have kept up with the saga that we have had. I mean, we sued Meta because they were blocking links to TEXIT now. I mean, there's whole site. I'm not going to go through it. You can go search for Facebook on Texian Partisan and you'll find it. Okay. But it's been a long, strange trip, right? Where we've had issues with censorship on Facebook. We've had algorithmic suppression on X. We have had, TikTok at one point. I mean, it just goes on and on, right? And it's not just one thing. It's always something with these platforms. And so, but tonight I want to talk about Facebook specifically. So if you are participating over there, we have a Facebook page, the Texas Nationalist Movement does. We have a group, a discussion group, and we have a members group. And all three of those things have been around since we first got on the Facebook platform. And we made announcements over in the two groups that we would be shutting down activity on those groups. We're basically have wound down everything over there, and we're moving everything to our own platform, which is TNM Social. If you don't know what that is, go to tnm.social and you'll find out. But it's our internal internal system, right? With its own mobile app and everything else. All the stuff you love to do over there on those platforms, you can do on TNM Social. Except, we don't have all of these random advertisers and all that other kind of nonsense. So, and it's all Texians. It's all people like us, right? So, as of January 1, we have officially stopped putting any content in those groups. By January the 15th, we will effectively lock them down. We'll leave them live for 2 to 3 weeks. And then we will shut them down. right? So they're gone. All of that activity will be moved over to T&M Social. So, the page will still be there. We still need a foothold over there. We still need a presence over there. But all of that community activity and action will be taking place on T&M Social. And T&M Social is rolling out lots and lots of new features to accommodate this sort of thing. Matter of fact, if you're watching this live stream on there now, you're looking at one of those features. That's just kind of an introduction, a taste of what's coming on that platform. But it's a platform for people like us, for Texians, who believe that Texas should be a self-governing independent nation, who believe that Texas should be first, right? Not some other supranational entity or other country or other organization or whatever it is, right? It's for T&Mers, for Texians, for people like us. And so it exists, and our people are loving it, I do believe, and enjoying the mobile app. So get over there and participate as soon as you can. But I gotta say, I am not disappointed to be leaving at least that community aspect of Facebook, because it's been nothing but a nightmare for years and years and years. I mean, you got to think, there was a time when we were slamming and jamming so hard before they implemented their censorship regime. The Facebook page for the T&M had more likes than the Republican Party of Texas and the Democratic Party of Texas combined, right? I mean, we were just an absolute juggernaut. And then it's like a brick wall, man. It's like all of a sudden Facebook and then Twitter at the time, and then all the, and it's like that they figure out that if they can keep us from communicating with you and with one another, then that would be an effective way to combat the spread of the TEXIT contagion. And so what they did not estimate, or what they did not take into account, is that we just go develop our own platforms. So that's just the way it works. Right out of the gate, let me send a big thank you to Chris Powell before we get to these questions for your super chat on YouTube. Thank you so much. Let's go. Let's go is right. Okay. All right. Let's get to some of these questions. All right. Let's tackle some in that have been emailed in. Okay, Maria says, hi, Mr. Miller. Thanks for your invitation. I signed myself and my husband up again. One never knows what kind of politics we'll see. President Trump won't be able to serve another term, so we must plan ahead. Okay, thank you for your comment, and welcome back, Maria. Hopefully this is no longer your plan B. Hopefully this is your plan A, because we all know the reality is nothing related to the federal government will ever change. Not anything lasting, right? Okay, this question comes in from Lori. Lori says, did you see the Kyle Rittenhouse interview yesterday on the Luke Macias show? I did not. Kyle sounds like he is very pro-Texas independence. But of course, with it being Texas scorecard, that line of questioning was not pursued. So I have not seen it, but it wouldn't surprise me. In my other life, my tech consultant life, oddly enough, I had another contractor that I'm working on a project with who had no idea about any of, this back here, right? They had no idea. And when I asked the question, because something came up and the question got asked, and I said, well, have you ever heard of TEXIT? He goes, yeah, let's get out of here. And so then I was like, well, let me tell you a little story. So I will tell you, it doesn't surprise me. Look, all this idea that TEXIT is this fringy thing, it's just not. I think not everybody, I think most people see what's unfolding, right? They understand the trajectory of this guy. I mean, what's happening in Minnesota is a perfect example of, and I don't just mean the ICE shooting either, right? I don't even just mean that. I mean the whole thing with the Somali fraud, and I mean it just goes on and on. The fact that so much of this is unfixable, right? Can we really be in a political and economic union with a state that is run like Minnesota is? Should we be? Right? I mean, look, if they want to turn Minnesota into a third world crap hole, let them do it. Why do I care? right? At the end of the day, why do I care? Well, I have to, the only reason that I have to care is because I'm forced to care, because we're in a union with these people that's being forced by the federal system. And that stuff is a contagion that flows over. I mean, New York City elects an outright socialist for a mayor. Is this really what we want to be a part of? Absolutely not. And, you know, at the end of the day, if Minnesota wants to be independent and run their thing the way they want to, that's fine. But they should not force people like me and you and other Texans to subsidize the lunacy, right? I mean, where do you think New York City is going to go when they need a handout, right? When the socialist experiment fails yet again, and they go to it, they'll have the state bail them out, or these private interests, and then that'll flow back to the federal government. The federal government will give them money, and then they'll come to us to take it out of our pockets, right? So the fact that we're in this political and economic union means that we're effectively subsidizing all of this nonsense. So it doesn't surprise me that Kyle Rittenhouse is down with Texas independence. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It doesn't shock me in the least. So anyway, thank you for that question, Lori. Let's see what we got over here. Look at that. We got a, hey, I recognize that name and face. Hey, Carlton, thank you for signing up, being a member of the YouTube channel. It is much appreciated. Good to see your name again, amigo. Very good. Thank you for that. All right. Here we go. Chisholm Ranch says, have you had any of the coffee that we make? I'm guessing that's supposed to be Marfa, Texas. I have not. But put me down as intrigued, because I always love a great cup of coffee. Look, okay. Let me be total transparency here. I would pretty much drink any coffee if I got to the point of being under caffeinated enough, right? So let's not pretend like I'm some coffee connoisseur. I'm not the dude, pouring it in the saucer and, trying to slurp it out. I don't care about that. I just want a good cup of coffee. I mean, who doesn't want a good cup of coffee, right? I just want a good cup of coffee. And sometimes I will accept substandard coffees. Often. When you travel like we do and have to get it from a hotel, and that may be the only coffee you get that day, sometimes beggars cannot be choosers. Okay. But I'm intrigued. Send me more information, or send me coffee. I'll take it. As evident by, some of the gifts that I've gotten in the past. Chris Milton used to send me great coffee when they had it available. It was kind of wild. And Cheryl Miller, our head of technology, she used to give me coffee too. So, got to keep me fueled up, right? But I am intrigued. All right, let's get over here and see what we got. Look at that. See, this live stream thing is working with the chat on TNM Social. I'm just over the moon about it, guys. I really am. But let me go ahead and thank a few people over there. A big thank you to Connie for your $25 contribution. Really appreciate it. Lori, thank you so much for your $25 contribution as well. And Stacy, thank you for your $55. That is much appreciated. So thank you so very, very, very much. Stacy says it's in honor of Daphne's birthday, which is pretty great. Hopefully you guys appreciated the picture that I sent her for her birthday, or that I posted on TNM Social. It was pretty funny. I enjoyed it. I also have one of her in front of doing that very thing in front of a Long John Silver's as well. And only some of you will get that joke. All right, let's get over here to another question. Lee says, Daniel, any further information regarding military and intellectual property negotiations? You may want to follow up. I thought that there had been something posted. I thought there had been like an analysis article posted on Texian Partisan about that. You know what? Let me just do this. This is like help desk in real time. This is what it feels like. right? But I remember that, Lee. So I'm going to make a note here. All right, note made. Done. Look at that. I'm analoging it. Pen and paper. Sierra Club hates me. Okay. There we go. All right. Here is a question from Dustin who says, well, it says the Dustin at 151. So I'm guessing it is the Dustin, like the only one, or 151. I don't know. Maybe Dustins have model numbers. Oh no. Anyway, what is happening this year that can get us closer to independence? This country is getting out of control. That, sir, is correct. Yeah. So let's talk about that, right? I mean, I knew that discussion about 2026 was going to come up. Let's just let me just kind of walk you through this. Here's the kind of the bottom line. Well, there is no bottom line. We're just going to go on a journey. So hopefully you poured your coffee too. So I don't know how. Let me figure out how I want to start this off, because let's just say that for the TNM for 2026, the work that we are doing is all about capacity building. Okay. If you are not familiar with that term, then you need to go become a member of the TNM, which will give you access to the TEXIT blueprint course in the TNM Academy. And then you can watch the entire seminar, or you can just go watch the first part of it, right? Which is the step, right? The first step, which is capacity building. Okay. And it's a pretty important thing. And I'll say this because some of you will probably roll your eyes and be like, oh, where have we heard this before? Well, you heard it in the TEXIT blueprint. You've heard us talk about it a lot. But it's capacity building is a never ending scenario, right? You always have to scale up infrastructure, because here's the challenge you run into. And I actually talked about this back in August on the anniversary, the 29th anniversary of my crossing of the line in the sand, and people were asking me questions and, ups and downs and things like that. And I talked about this particular time period. There's a period in 2009, and I actually wrote about these guys. And anyway, long story short is, if you don't have the capacity to carry out operations, right? In other words, if you don't have the capacity to actually accomplish your goal, then you will never accomplish your goal. And one of the challenges that we run into, if you look at the growth curve from the start of the TNM to today, it's been very steady, right? It's been a very steady increase with spikes, right? You will have these occasional spikes, but they get kind of subsumed by the overall upward trajectory of support for this issue. We don't roller coaster. It's a weird thing when you plot our numbers. We don't roller coaster. We don't go through these wild swings like the opposition would expect, because they think that support for independence is kind of this knee-jerk reaction to whatever the news is of the day. In other words, journalists and pundits, they transfer their worldview on people like us. And the fact of the matter is, we know that those people don't think like we do, right? And so they look at independence as just, okay, something bad happened today, I support independence, but everything's cool tomorrow, so I don't. And then back and forth. And granted, there are some people that are like that, right? We refer to them as the hokey pokeys internally in the TNM. They got their right foot in, then they got their right foot out. They put their left foot in, they put their left foot out, right? They wax and they wane. That's just a natural part of it, right? But in reality, the trajectory for support has steadily climbed, okay? But with these spikes, and you will see these punctuations, and the problem, the challenge you always run into, the danger, the risk is that when you have one of these spikes, right? So something happens, and all of a sudden, people that is their moment of clarity, where they say, "I get it now. There is no fixing it. There is no going back." The risk that you have is that when one of those moments happens, you do not have the capacity to capitalize on it, to take the momentum to the next level and get the win, right? And it's inevitable, right? You're going to get those. It's like sometimes drinking out of a fire hose. So when you start plotting things on a timeline, you realize right now we're in an election cycle. We're less than 8 weeks away from the primaries, right? Where the vast majority of races are going to be decided. Most of those people that are running in that come out of those primaries will not have a credible threat in the general election. So the makeup of your next Texas legislature is going to be determined. It's being determined right now. Okay. So you run into this scenario where you get all these guys set in, they're kind of locked in, they get to kind of skip, play hopscotch all the way to the next legislative session. If you're not prepared ahead of that legislative session, then say something crazy happens, right? Well, it's not even crazy, right? I think it's no secret that the party in power at the federal level typically faces some significant headwinds moving into the midterms. It's a given. It happens all the time. But I think it's also important to note that in this midterm cycle, those headwinds are going to be a lot more excessive, right? There's going to be a lot more push. I mean, you literally had New York City elect a socialist, right? If you think that sentiment is isolated in New York City, you were sadly mistaken. Okay. So you're going to have probably a divided government in Washington, D.C. So all these things that everybody's talking about that, they want to see get done, if they're not done by the time it's over, by the time the elections happen in November and the new Congress hits, they're not getting done at the federal level. So all of you people that have decided that you wanted to step out and give the federal government another chance, understand that your dreams, your hopes, your wishes are about to, that ship is about to run up on the rocks of reality come the midterms, right? And that's just the reality of it. I mean, this is why there was the big scramble for the redistricting and all this other kind of nonsense that was going on. It was essentially a move to try to solidify that control. So my point here is that in running the analysis for these midterms, this is what it looks like. So for us, that obviously is both a good and a bad thing, right? It's a bad thing in the sense that, some of the things that we might like aren't going to get done, but it's a good thing because it's going to wake a lot of people up. And when those people wake up and say, we want TEXIT, they're going to come knocking. They're going to come hit the organization. They're going to be ready for something. And we're going to be just a few, literally 8 weeks from that point until 8 or 9 weeks away from the legislative session starting. But understand the groundwork has to be done in this entire lead up before that ever happens. You can't spin up an operation to go push this thing forward if you're starting from a cold start at the general election date in November. So much of what we're doing for 2026 has got to get ready for this, because we as an organization have to capitalize on the people being ready. What have we always said? When people say, when is independence going to happen? I say, when the people want it to happen. But if we're not ready to channel and organize and do those things necessary when all those people come and we collapse under the weight of our own success, then we get nothing. We go into another legislative session and come out with a major disappointment. So this is pretty big. Look, you can have some more catalyzing events like what's happening in Minnesota. I mean, Tim Walz is saying that he's going to call up the National Guard to go challenge the ICE agents. And I mean, you're talking, we're getting in that territory that I've warned about for a very long time, which is you're going to start potentially seeing some very direct conflict between official and official. That's kind of Civil War-ish, right? Or I guess technically it could be balkanization too. don't know. It's worth taking a look at. But my point here is that Dustin, if we're looking at what's happening this year, all of these things bring us closer to Texas independence. But it's up to us. It's up to you. It's up to me. It's up to everybody that's watching this here to become a part of the movement that's making it happen. Right? Look, there's nobody else out there that understands how to make this happen like we do. They just don't. Everybody coming in from a cold start doesn't know, it doesn't work if you say crap from Shinola. I mean, it doesn't. It doesn't have the same ring, and I can't say the other thing on here because I'm a nice guy. But my point here is that we're in the position to do it, and I know this because my phone rings with from other independence movements and reporters reporting on other independence movements. We are the de facto experts on these things, which is great. It's a good place to be in. It's a bad place to be in if your people are not capitalizing on that opportunity and recognizing the unique position that they have as being the standard bearers for the world on the issue of independence. Okay. So, there could be any number of incidents that happen, but we have to be, and our plan for 2026 is to be very conscious about this. I mean, we are taking a lean and mean approach. We're taking inventory of everything. We'll be having an all hands meeting with all the top leadership coming up very soon. There are going to be lots of events and things that you will need to participate in, but there's stuff that you don't have to wait for us to say. There's things you should be doing right now. Look, if you're not a member of the Texas Nationalist movement, you need to go do that literally right now. Go to tnm.me/join, be a member. Right? If I go on TNM Social and I look at your profile picture and you don't have a little gold ring around, it means you're not a member. Right? That's how we know who's in, who's out. Right? At a very minimum, if you're not ready for membership, but you're ready to say, look, if it goes on the ballot, I'll vote for it. Go register your support. That's free. Doesn't cost you jack. If you can do a little bit more, make a contribution. If you're in a county and you want to participate and help us organize that county, well, there's options for that too. Go to local.tnm.me. If you want to volunteer or you have a special set of skills, right? You have bookkeeping skills or communication skills or whatever it is. If you got a special set of skills, reach out to us and let us know and say, look, I've got these skills. How can I help? Right? There are always things you can do 24/7, 365 to help advance the cause of Texas independence. We don't have to wait for other things to happen when we can be making taking the actions and making the conscious decisions to advance Texas independence today. So, great question, the Dustin 151. I really do appreciate it. And hopefully that gave you a sense, right, of an answer to your question. All right, let's go make the rounds over here, see what we got. I'm having to balance 3 separate places to find your questions. Hey, thank you to Chris Milton for your $21 contribution. It is, again, much appreciated. Was that so I can go buy me some coffee? Because that coffee you got me was really good. I'm just saying. Thank you, Eric, for your $25 contribution. Very much appreciated. Let's see here. Okay, we got people. Okay, this is from Matthew, and he says, Happy New Year. My question today is, when would you say the Union shifted from being the United States to essentially the United State? My personal opinion is when the Union invaded the Confederacy, but I was curious about your opinion on the matter. Yeah, I mean, it's actually a really good question, right? Because, I don't know that you could put like a moment, but you could put a period of history and definitely beyond a shadow of a doubt. I would kind of pin it to a couple of different time periods. I mean, obviously that post-Civil War period, right? The immediate period right after. And I'm not going to get into a lengthy discussion about how Texas versus White really exposes that, but it does. But also I would say right around the turn of the 20th century. I think that was that was a definite period, and I've got a lot of reasons for thinking that way. But look, it is an important distinction, right? And I think the idea that somehow the United States could be this solitary thing. I mean, it's just baked in the name, United States, separate things, and yet people say the United States is like it's a singular thing, and in truth, it can operate as a thing, right? You have individual players on a team and they operate as a team, but that's kind of in my opinion, I think it's a betrayal of the founding of the institution known as the United States of America. And I think that part of the reason that we have so many problems in here in Texas and in this federal union is that you look at the Constitution and how what it says, what it doesn't say, what it reserves to the states, how the courts have interpreted it. You look at the Constitution, and it's a document for what is effectively a confederacy, right? It's a federal body in the sense that each state is separate, individual, sovereign. And they said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do these things together. We're going to have a common foreign policy and a common defense, and we're going to be able to ship mail between one another, and we're not going to be able to tariff one another. We're going to basically have free trade. I mean, I've said this all along, that the United States Constitution is essentially a political and economic union that has, it's a mutual defense compact. It's a free trade agreement with a smattering of a postal union, and that's about it, right? Or a postal convention. That's literally what it does. A bit of an economic union, a little bit of a political union, definitely a mutual defense compact. But beyond that, everything else was supposed to be left to the states. And so because you have a governing document for a body like that, but yet you have a federal system that has encroached on everything and everyone, who's trampled all over every bit of it, trying to be this unitary nation state, which it is not. You find this incongruence, this incompatibility. And so now this is why you have battles with federal judges all the time, and you have issues with immigration and citizenship. And I mean, you borders. I mean, you look at all of these issues, and it comes back to this incongruence that we have between what the governing document of this institution is and the way that it functions. And people say, well, we need the government to get back to the federal government to get back to the Constitution. It's like that. The federal government couldn't see the Constitution with the Hubble Space Telescope, right? It's so far removed from the Constitution, it couldn't find it, right? So, if I were to pinpoint to your question, I mean, it's obvious that you've got the Civil War period. I think the beginning of the 20th century, that first couple of decades, but I think it even goes farther back than that as well. I think that all of those things, those two time periods, the stage was set in the very early days. I think the United States of America as a political and economic institution began to fail early in its infancy. I mean, I think it did. And I think that there was not enough willpower to revisit the governing document again, much like they did, how the Constitution replaced the Articles of Confederation. I think there was not the stomach to try to reopen that can of worms. And I know there's going to probably be some historian that will take me to task for that, but I think what I'm stating is my opinion. I don't have to read the journals to read between the lines and understand that there was really no taste for having to go back down that road and revisit the founding document again. I mean, they created an amendment process, and no one really conceived at that time that that document would be so usurped that states that join the union or the people in those states would put up with the kind of crap that they have had to put up with years and years and years. But there were people within the government, within the system, that had other ideas. that had dreams of empire, that wanted to eliminate this distinction between the states. And, you know, they were just globalists of their day, but with a smaller landmass than the entire globe. They had dreams of empire, right? So that's my take, and I really do appreciate I appreciate the question. Thank you for that. And by the way, guys, that came from the chat on TNM Social. So if you're not over there, oh man, they are having a hot conversation about that over there. This is funny. I don't know what that means, but okay. Yes, lots of comments about Tim Walz in the chat over there. That's pretty funny. All right, here we go. This question is from Debbie. Debbie says, "What do you think about Texas fraud being exposed? The Patel Mafia and SBA loans, any other areas of fraud?" Debbie, here's the bottom line. I don't know specifically what you're talking about, but I think I have an idea, because there's been some chatter that there is a scandal that is potentially brewing in Texas that is on par or even exceeds the Somali daycare thing that's happening in Minnesota. But here's my take on it, without getting into the details of that, because I don't have all of them. But I'll definitely, when this is over with, do some research. If you want to understand fraud and corruption, just go kick over a rock near a government official, right? I mean, this is the reality of it. I read, this is not necessarily fraud, but I think it is abuse. I just read from a former, perhaps current candidate for an office in the San Antonio area that a government entity tried to charge them $900 for public information, right? I mean, just so they wouldn't give it to them. Things that were there that were requested under an open records request. The bottom line is that where you have government, and particularly ones that sort of isolate themselves off, you're going to find tons of fraud and corruption. Every time the government takes money from you to give it to someone else, you are going to find some degree of fraud and corruption. That is the reality of it. I mean, Beaumont ISD and the Calvin Walker situation, you guys probably don't know about that. A lot of people didn't, but I mean, it was literally false billing a school district. When school districts are talking about, we need more money, they're giving multi-million-dollar contracts, brother-in-law deals, and no show, no work, and all this other kind of stuff. And it's not just happening here in Beaumont, it's happening all over the place. So, is this surprising to me, what you're saying? It really doesn't surprise me. I have been a proponent for a very long time. We have to be watchdogs of our own government right here in Texas. We got to be on them like hawks. And I would say that from the time that we have founded the TNM to today, there has been how should I put this? An amazing lack of transparency where the government is concerned. They have made being a watchdog on the government a lot more opaque. It's harder and harder to hold elected officials accountable, or government officials of any shape, form, or fashion, be that a governor all the way to local dog catcher. I mean, it's just, they've made it exceedingly difficult. And so when you have a lack of accountability and a lack of transparency, then naturally that's where people with bad intentions are going to go, because they can do the things they do outside the light of day. If you can't see them doing dirty things, then it's kind of like they feel like they can get away with it, and they do. But I'm going to look at this, Debbie. I'm kind of anxious to see what's going on. But I have heard some rumors, but nothing I'm willing to talk about on here tonight. All right. Yeah, somebody commented right there. $900 is cheap. My town charged $16,500, and they do. I mean, used to be reasonable, right? It used to be reasonable charges. But the problem with these Open Records Act requests is, if you go look at the tweaks that they make in these legislative sessions, that go kind of under the radar, right? They go like nobody talks about these things, or very little. They don't become a big stink because most people don't utilize open records requests. They just don't, and so they don't think about it. It doesn't rise to the level of what they are concerned about. It doesn't become a top level thing until it does, right? Until the government starts doing, or people in the government start doing dirty things, and then you can't extract it out, Okay, let's go to another question. Oh yeah, I was supposed to do this like 12 minutes ago, but that being said, if you're joining us, if you're coming in late, first and foremost, your tardy slip is available in the principal's office. And number two, you can still get your question in. You can drop it to coffeetalk@tnm.org. If you're watching on YouTube, you can drop it in chat. Same thing on X, Facebook, and Rumble. And of course, if you are watching this live stream on TNM Social, which you should be, then you could go in there and drop it in the chat as well. Let me scour over there and see what's what. Okay. Stacy says, FYI, the Alamo Memorial March in February falls on Valentine's Day. Bring your sweetie to San Antonio for a romantic weekend and honor the Texian heroes. There's your invitation. For those of you who don't know, the TNM for 12, 13 years, whatever it is, I've lost count. Every single solitary month on the second Saturday of the month, we do a silent memorial march and lay a wreath at the door of the Alamo Chapel. And so we invite you to come. Understand it's not a demonstration or a protest. It is a memorial march. So silent, somber, respectful of the ground where the Alamo defenders shed their blood, right? And we go pay our respects. And you are welcome to join us. Just follow the rules, but show up. Details are on the TNM website. Go to tnm.me. But you saw Stacy's invitation. I think Stacy's angling for everybody to bring heart-shaped box of chocolates, because that is the angle that I would take. I'd be like, hey, y'all need to come out for Valentine's Day. Whitman samplers, we're not going to turn those down, right? Okay. Let's go here. All right, guys. Checking there. Okay, and here we go. Here is a question in from Alexander on Facebook. He says, how can we make this a useful issue for pushing TEXIT? It seems to me that waste, fraud, and corruption would be a great motivation for Texas independence. I'll tell you, I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, you're not wrong at all about that. I mean, it should be a great motivator, but it's not a new motivator, right? I mean, this is literally, I can remember back when I was a kid, people complaining about the $800 hammers and the $1,200 toilet seats, right? From the federal government. I mean, that's why Doge became so popular, Doge, the federal government. But, so much of this is really, I think it's so common that it's so expected that people just kind of turn it into background noise. I mean, they seem concerned about it for about a half a second. So, is it a motivator for some people? Sure. But by and large, most people don't seem to be too motivated by it. But what it does for us, and here's where you're over the target, Alexander. And it's that what it does for us is it bolsters the case, right? I mean, you go look at the Minnesota daycare fraud thing. I mean, when you understand that a lot of these programs that are happening at the state level are extensions of federal programs. In other words, those are federal mandates. And what happens is, and I'll just tell you a Texas example. A lot of the programs from the federal government that they take money from us to go fund, they become federal mandates, right? So they're gonna implement this federal program, and then they go to the states, and they're gonna say, now you're gonna administer this program in your state, but here's the challenge. We're only going to give you 40% of the money or 60% of the money, depending on what the funding formula is for any given congressional session, because it does change. And since we're only going to fund part of it, we're going to make you go back to your taxpayers And if you want to unlock that money, then and get that money coming back into your state, then you're going to have to get money for the rest of the program to fully fund it from your taxpayers. So they double dip on us. So comes out of our pocket, goes to Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. takes out their cut like any good mafia don would, right? They get their taste. And then they say, okay, here's the deal. We're going to dangle this money, a piece of your money back, but now you've got to go dip back into your taxpayers, take more money from them to put into this program that they probably don't even want, right? If you want to be able to try to access any of that money. And that's how it works. And so many of these programs are either fully or partially funded by the federal government. And then yet again, which is, by the way, is code for Texas taxpayers, because remember, we overpay anywhere from $103 to $160 billion annually on average. But they're funded by people like us for states like Minnesota or other states that don't put in their fair share, that don't pay their way, right? And then they come in and have to dip out of our pockets to actually be able to access any of that money. So, at the end of the day, Texans should be outraged. They should be. But they don't, they typically don't, because they don't understand the economics at play. The system is a bit of a shell game. It's convoluted on purpose, because if you don't understand it, you can't be mad about it. If you can't be mad about it, then when it comes time to vote for these people at election time, you got nobody to throttle. And here's the deal. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter who you elect anyway, because the government isn't run by the people you elect. It's run by the 2.5 million unelected federal bureaucrats and lifetime appointed federal judges. That's who runs things. Those are the guys that make the things happen, and they're never on the ballot. Never, ever, ever on the ballot. So your best bet is, if you have a concern, is you take this issue of waste, fraud, and abuse, and you go, that is one more reason why TEXIT makes the absolute most sense in the entire world for us. It is the path forward for us, because we chop that thing off. Those federal programs go away. We do what we want to do. Texas taxpayer money stays here. That overpay that we pay into the federal system no longer goes to Minnesota or some left-leaning university that wants to study alcoholism and Chinese prostitutes, or whatever kind of nonsense they want to spend on that crap goes away. And then we can take care of Texas and Texans first and spend that money according to our priorities, or leave it in your pocket so it'll better our economy, and you can not have a hard time putting food on your table, and you can educate your kids the way that you want to, and so you don't have to live paycheck to paycheck, making just enough to get by, but never enough to get ahead. That's what TEXIT means. It's getting the hand of Uncle Scam out of your pocket to go feed all this other nonsense that you would never, if they came to you and said, hey, would you donate to this? You would look at them and you go, what the hell is wrong with you? Did you have a stroke? Are you crazy? What psych ward did you escape from? That's what you would say if they came to you and said, will you donate to this program? But yet they forcibly extract it from you. Money that could be spent on you and your family and in your community and in your city and in your state. They take it from you to give it to crap like this, stuff you would never intentionally fund, ever. This is why we got to get out of this place. I mean, if the crap on the news doesn't convince people now, nothing will. This will not be fixed. There might be a pause, a respite, a little dial back here and there and everywhere else, but the advancements and the encroachments on our freedom, on our individual liberty, on our sovereignty, they continue unabated on 1,000 other fronts. That is the reality, my friends. That's why TEXIT must happen. That's why if you're sitting on the couch, which maybe you could be watching this on your TV, which would be kind of cool. But if you're sitting on the sidelines, right, waiting to get in, waiting for that right time, or thinking you don't have anything to offer, you were dead wrong. And much like that letter that I quote from all the time, that letter from the Committee of Safety, from the Community of Liberty, right after the Battle of Gonzales, the text was plain. There is danger in delay. Get serious or get stomped on. That's what the options are. Alexander, thank you. Appreciate the question. Okay, Chris says, can you please update Take Texas Back? I filled out paperwork for precinct chair again. Touch on the delegation precinct level that we need to get our own people on the okay. I have no idea what's going on there, but if you will send an email to the office, I am sure it will get taken care of. But thank you for your super chat, your second one of the live stream. Much, much appreciated. Okay. Let's do this. I'm going to make one more sweep before I talk about some things that need to be talked about. Man, you guys are wound up tighter than Dick's hat band over in the T&M social chat. I like y'all. Y'all are being super awesome. Okay, let's get down to, I think we're clear. I think we have cleared the board. All right, so let's talk about, hang on. Almost missed one. Doggone it. Okay. Oh, I think we're good. I think we're clear. All right. So, friends, let's talk a little bit about, well, in these few minutes that I've got left, I want to just say thank you. I'm so excited to be working with you guys, and just the things that we've got coming up for 2026 are just incredible. But I've got a couple that I want to mention tonight before we wrap up, because as many of you know, or may not know, depending on it, if you watch this and hear the commentary, there's been discussion for many, many months about the disposition of the Texas News podcast. It's a podcast that I host. And some of you probably have heard me make remarks. You've asked questions about it. Wow, there's been more talk than coffee tonight. You've asked questions about it and noticed there hadn't been any new episodes, and that's because we have spent some time retooling that. And 2026 was our target to relaunch, and it is indeed happening. So just give you an idea of what you should be expecting. We're doing some really cool things with the podcast. And instead of getting one thing, you're going to actually get two things. So I like that. That makes me happy to be able to take one thing and make it two things. But it was very clear that the Texas News podcast had really kind of outgrown. It was becoming a mismatched set. It was an interview, right, or the commentary, serious news kind of situation, deep dives on particular topics. And so what we've done is made the decision to absolutely split those two things, right? And so let me go ahead and introduce you tonight to the Texas First podcast. That will be the continuation. The Texas News podcast is going to be rebranded as the Texas First podcast to reflect that we will be covering Texas First topics and issues. That will include deep dives on issues that we maybe discover on Late Night Coffee Talk, or one of the first episodes that's in production right now is an explanation of very likely why Greg Abbott decided to give a $2 million campaign contribution to the Republican Party of Texas for their convention. And it's going to cover a lot of topics like that. Will there be some interviews on there? Sort of. There may be some snippets of some people that we talk to about it, but it will not be these one-on-one interview situations like you are. It's going to be a lot more like the podcast where we talked about, is Texas preparing for independence, or are we headed to a civil war, or some of these deeper dive type topics. But that's going to be it. Very similar to what used to be the Texas Perspective many, many years ago, but we're going to be isolating that content out, and it's going to be called the Texas First Podcast. But some people say, well, what about these interviews? We love the interviews that you do. Well, congratulations, because if you're a TNM member, then you're absolutely going to love this, because all of those interviews are going to be moved to something called Texian Talks. where we do one-on-one or panel discussions specifically with newsmakers. We're going to be leading off with candidates. In fact, the vast majority of these, the target for this will be, they will be live streamed, and they will be live streamed exclusively on TNM Social. So they will go from being recorded affairs primarily to mostly being live streamed, where you are going to help drive the conversation that we have with these various newsmakers, these allies, these electeds, these candidates, all these things. So all of these candidates that all you guys have been blowing up my inbox, it's just about to be showtime for you. So we're doing it, like I said, exclusively on the TNM Social app. So you'll be able to go there just like many of you are right now, and you'll be able to participate. As we interview these folks, you'll be able to ask your questions, make your assessments, and do those things. So I'm excited because we've got a lineup of people that are just chomping at the bit. Newsflash, if you're a candidate and you are not a Texas First pledge signer, don't bother. Don't bother darkening the door. Don't send me an email begging to get your candidate on here. If they haven't signed the Texas First pledge, then they can go take care of that. That's all I'm going to interview is Texas First pledge signers when it comes to candidates. Okay. Once we get beyond the election cycle, well, even before the end of the election cycle, I mean, we're going to be lining up academics, other leaders and other independence movements. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people that we're going to be dealing with, and we'll be rotating some of them through. But you're going to have an experience very much like this, but instead of me talking, it's going to be me and a guest, and we're going to be I'm going to be interviewing them, and you are going to sit there as kind of the second interviewer, where you're going to get to participate. So I hope you're excited about this. I really am. I think this is a change that's been coming for a very long time, and excited that we're going to get to make that happen. But Texas First podcast will still be available everywhere the Texas News podcast is. Spotify, YouTube, there's going to be a special place for it on TNM Social. Obviously, the Texian Partisan News site, and then the Texian Talks will absolutely be a 100% TNM Social exclusive. We may take a snippet and put it on some of these other platforms, but the real experience will be live, and it will be right on TNM Social. So very much looking forward to that. We will be unveiling our 2026 plans very shortly. So I want you, like, for the whole year, with the cadence, and I think you're all going to be very happy and very surprised. But let me just put it this way. Daddy's home, boys and girls, and I got stuff for you. So with that, let's take care of a little final business before we end the night. A big reminder, if you didn't get the hint before, get it now. You definitely want to head over there and get signed up on TNM Social. If you were not already, that's where the action's happening. Go to tnm.social, and while you're at it, get the mobile app. You can go get it on the Google Play Store or in the Apple App Store, but get on TNM Social. Can I say it one more time? Do you think I pushed it really hard enough that that's where all of us cool people are hanging out? Who knows, right? As I mentioned before, if you have not already pledged your support for the TNM, do that. Look, if you're not ready to become a member, then don't, right? We want people marching with us that are ready to march with us. But if you're like, look, I'm not going to get involved in this. I just, when it comes to a vote, I'm going to vote for it. Cool. We want to be able to talk to you when the vote comes, right? We want to be able to communicate with you. Head over to tnm.me/vote. Pledge your support today. Would be much, much appreciated. Big thank you to everybody who got Christmas swag from the Texian store. It is the first of the year. I hear there's another cold front coming, so if you haven't got your hoodie yet, make sure you do that. Plus other stuff, like the mug that I'm drinking out of tonight. It's literally that one that's on the screen right there, the Texian Partisan one, right? So get your merch and swag over at texianstore.com. And as always, speaking of the Texian Partisan, news, views, analysis, independent, head over to texianpartisan.com. A look at the events of the day and all these issues related to Texas independence through the official news side of the TNM, the Texian Partisan. Head over to texianpartisan.com. And look, if you've got questions about TEXIT, like if you just stumbled on this or are brand new to TEXIT, you got a lot of questions. My first suggestion is to head over to texitnow.org. Spend a lot of time over there. 100 of the most asked questions about Texas independence, the process, how it happens, all that kind of stuff. You can go find those answers at texitnow.org. And that, my friends, is a wrap. Look, I'm only like a minute over at this point. So anyway, been a good time tonight. Very good to be back together with you. Be super focused, right? It just things feel different. And I'm just glad to be here with you for this first late night coffee talk of 2026. I will be seeing you next week at this time. If I don't see you before, I mean, who knows what happens, right? No one knows. But with that being said, it's time that I bid you adieu. So I will leave you with the words that I leave you with every time we're together. They're not my words. They're the words of Sam Houston when he said that Texas will again lift its head and stand among the nations. I believe that time is now, and the question is, will you stand with her? Good night, everyone.